I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Denver, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event. And the thumbnail always gives it away. My biggest winner on this card was Rose Namajunas getting a dominant 5-round decision over Tracy Cortez. And look, I know Rose didn't get the finish, and I know Cortez took this on short notice and everything else, but the fact of the matter is, this is the type of win that's going to put Rose Namajunas back in title contention. So to me, that is the most impactful thing that's happened on this card, is Rose getting the win in the main event. And look, there was a bit of risk here fighting Tracy Cortez. She hadn't, lost in the UFC. Very, very solid prospect. I just think the level of opposition that Cortez had fought and the fact that she hadn't done 5 rounds was not working in her favor. Not to mention this being in Denver. Rose trains in Denver. Cortez not being able to get acclimatized to the elevation. Again, Rose went out there, did what she had to do. I think reminded people that she's not, quote unquote washed. I've seen a lot of people criticize Rose in her run at 125. And yes, it hasn't been as impressive as 115. However, you look at the loss she had, it was against Manon Fiorot. I think people are not giving Manon enough credit with how great she is in the weight class. So hopefully this is the type of win from Rose that will put, sort of the idea in people's minds that Rose is a contender in this weight class. She's very solid, very, very good victory here. As far as what's next for Rose and getting this victory, again, we're at a bit of a logjam at the top. We'll assume they're going to do Shevchenko Grasso. If for some reason Shevchenko can't go, then I would imagine they go Fiorot and Grasso. Either way, she's not going to be next. I think the fight here is Erin Blanchfield. I know, some people want to see the Macy Barber fight rebooked. I'm not really a fan of that. I think if you're out of the fight, and unless you're fighting like an unranked opponent or someone that's like, not a good opposition, I don't think Rose should have to rebook that fight. I suppose they could, but I think Erin Blanchfield and Rose would be the fight to make. We don't know who Erin's fighting next. You could also do Erin and Macy as well, and then maybe put Rose as like against someone else. I don't know, but either way, good win for Rose Namajunas last night in the main event, as I can't talk properly. All right, let's get to the other big stock riser on this card, and to me, this was Jean Silva. This is a fight I got wrong. Silva looked great, and listen, I know Drew Dober is a bit older, but the fact of the matter is Jean Silva fighting in 2 weeks apart, up a weight class, 27 years old. He looked great. And I thought the stoppage was totally fine. I think regardless, Silva was on his way to winning this. This is a guy that we got to keep an eye on. I was very, very, very impressed with this. And I'm assuming this is the weight class he'll be staying in going forward, because that's the one issue with the Jourdain win, was that he missed weight for that one. So can't get, too much credit for that victory. But this one he certainly can. Dober, a tough guy to take out. Dober, pretty durable overall. I know he's coming off a stoppage loss. I believe it was the last fight, I think, or was the fight before where Dober got finished. It was a couple fights ago where Matt Favola knocked him out. But what I'm saying is that, if you look at Dober's career, he's tough to finish. So the fact that I know it was a doctor stoppage, Silva still got it done. Very impressive. He gets the performance of the night bonus, as does Dober. Very good win there for Jean Silva. Very, very excited to see where he is going forward in this weight class. I love when you see fighters like this to sort of break through, and you want to keep an eye on them, because this guy looks different. And again, 27. He's part of that Fighting Nerds camp, which has produced some really great fighters over the last couple of years. Really, really impressed with Jean Silva. And then my last honorable mention has to go to Julian Erosa. Look, show of hands here. I know I can't see your hands or anything, but show of hands to the people here who picked Julian Erosa. I didn't see anyone really picking Julian Erosa, so credit to him. I always have a soft spot for Erosa because he's from Washington State, which is the state over from where I live. I met Julian a couple times. This is a really big win for him, taking out Christian Rodriguez. So not only does he take out Christian Rodriguez, he finishes him and gets the victory here as an underdog. I'm trying to remember what type of underdog he was going into this. I think he was plus 205. Wow. So yeah, very, very, very good win there for Julian Erosa, who, his biggest issue is just, his chin. Unfortunately, you look at his losses, they're knockout losses, but then he's got some decent victories too, some impressive victories, including, I mentioned Charles Jourdain earlier. He's one of the few guys to finish Charles as well. So yeah, if he just didn't have these chin issues, it would be a much different story in his career as far as what he's able to do. But Julian Erosa has to go up, because that was probably one of the biggest wins on this card, was him beating Christian Rodriguez, who I think, and I think a lot of people do, think very highly of Rodriguez. So that was a huge victory here. Julian Erosa. Julian Rodriguez would be a cool name though, for sure. But Julian Erosa, definitely has to go up on my stock list as well. Okay, we always do some honorable mentions. There was a lot on this card, so let's get to them right now. Some honorable mentions as far as stock risers on this card. Gotta mention Montel Jackson, quick win, 18 seconds, taking out Damon Blackshear, another fight I got wrong. Good job for Montel, a guy who doesn't fight that often, and has sort of struggled with consistency, going out there and finishing a tough guy like Blackshear. Very, very, very impressive. So that was good from Montel Jackson. Gotta mention Charles Johnson. I did call this. I know he was down in the fight, but look, at the end of the day, he got it done against Joshua Van, taking him out in the third round. Huge win there for Inner G, a fighter that, we thought might have not got a UFC contract a couple fights ago, right? He was on that losing streak, and, the veteran comes through, gets it done, and knocks out Joshua Van, handing, I believe that was Van's first stoppage loss, unless that other loss he had was a stoppage loss as well. I'm trying to remember. Okay, no, second stoppage loss, but first knockout loss. We'll give him that. So big win there for Charles Johnson. He's a stock riser as well. You could also have put Johnson in my top three too, but doesn't matter. Gabriel Bonfim, I thought a good win here, just bouncing back from the Dalby victory. Would have liked to finish, but still going the distance, good to show a variety of skill sets by going to the scorecards there. So that was good. And then got to mention Luana Santos as well. Again, she was a big favorite going in. We sort of expected this, but to go out there and finish Agapov so quickly, very impressive. So Santos also gets a shutout too. There's some really good performances on this card, but those are some of the ones that stood out. Okay, the part that's not so fun for the fighters, maybe fun for you guys, the stock droppers on this card, the fighters whose stock went down. And to me, there's no one more obvious here than Christian Rodriguez. I don't know, maybe I'm out to lunch here, guys, but I was very high on Rodriguez coming into this. I did mention how I thought this fight might go the distance because, Rodriguez isn't much of a knockout artist, more of a submission guy. I thought, what's the path to victory here? I thought maybe decision, but he's the one who ends up getting finished. And at 26 years old, this is a tough one here, right? I know, again, lost his debut. We can kind of scratch that off because that was a fight at featherweight on short notice. But you look at the win streak he amassed, probably didn't deserve, he shouldn't have got that win over Isaac Dulgarian. But to get finished like that against Julian Erosa, not a good look. People are already upset about the Dulgarian decision, and now you get finished here. I think he's got to go back to 135. I think they got to do something with his weight. Granted, Julian Erosa is a big featherweight, but this was a tough loss because this was a guy that they were slowly building up. Remember the win over Raul Rosas? Like, that was a huge win for him as well. Although another fight that he missed weight, I think, right? He missed weight for that one, but still beat Raul Rosas. Like that sort of, idea of, wow, this guy's going to be something special. That's sort of long gone with this loss and the Dulgarian fight as well. So I would hope he tries another run at bantamweight. He's still young enough. But Christian Rodriguez getting finished, not a great look in that one. The other stock dropper on this card was another prospect as well, and that is Joshua Van. Now, look, Joshua Van looked good in this fight the first couple rounds. But at the end of the day, he lost, and he got finished by a guy in Charles Johnson who was an underdog. He was expected to win this. I didn't think he'd get the win here, but the fact that he got finished in this one, it's tough. Granted, he's been through a lot. You look at all the fight cancellations and everything else, opponent switch ups, but still, this is a fight that I think is winnable for Van. And he didn't get it done. So Joshua Van, another stock dropper. Just when you consider that the hype behind him, he was, undefeated in the UFC, 22 years old, getting finished like this is certainly tough. And then the last one I'll mention, and I don't know how much stock he had going in, but he's a veteran. He's a guy that doesn't get finished too often, and that is Drew Dober. Dober now back-to-back losses. He's now lost 3 of his last 4. That's a tough spot for a guy who is how old now? 35, and in a division that is full of absolute sharks. So that to me is another. By the way, Adam Martin Dober is his real name. How did I never know this? Or Andrew Martin Dober, not Adam Martin, like my friend. Sorry, I just noticed that right now. Never knew that. But Dober losing. It's going to put him in a tough spot here. I don't know what his contract status is like, but you're losing 3 of 4. Never good. Just the one win over Ricky Glenn, which hasn't exactly aged that well. Drew Dober, another big stock dropper. And then a couple honorable mentions I'll use. Normally, I don't mention these types of fighters, but I do have to mention them because I think they're probably going to get released from the UFC. 2 fighters have lost 3 in a row after this card. One is Maria Agapova. I think she's done. Crazy to think. I'll never forget this. Do you guys remember, I think it was her UFC debut, or it might have been the fight after. I should probably go and actually look it up. Do you remember ESPN interviewing her, and she was a huge prospect, and she fought Shauna Dobson, and everyone was convinced she was going to destroy her in that fight? When was that? So she beats Hannah Cyphers. Yeah, it was the Shauna Dobson fight. Look at the odds on this one. She was minus 1,400 in that fight, and she lost. So ever since then, hasn't really worked out well for her. Lost that fight and has now lost 3 in a row here. Maria Agapova probably getting her walking papers. Just crazy to think what people thought of her at the time and where she is now. And then the other one as well is Darius Flowers, obviously losing 3 in a row, so he's out. And then just another stock dropper I got to mention is Damon Blackshear. Had a tough fight against Mario Batista, thought he would bounce back in a big way, and you remember he had that 2-fight win streak, and now, he's at the end result now, he's lost, he's 2-3-1 in the UFC, which is not great. I think he still has a couple more fights in his deal, but that's tough. Losing as quickly as he did, that's never a good look. So getting finished in 18 seconds. Damon Blackshear, definitely a stock dropper on this card. Okay, so I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. in terms of who your biggest stock risers are and who your biggest stock droppers are. I always get people in here being like, I disagree, your picks suck, whatever. I would rather hear your top three and your bottom three in terms of your top three stock risers and top three stock droppers. I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your justification, why. Maybe there's some stuff you agree with me, maybe there's some stuff you don't. Again, I have my own sort of criteria. I look at a lot of, context and odds and all this different stuff. That's how I kind of determine who my stock risers and droppers are. But I would love to hear from you in the comments. Just let me know your top three risers, top three droppers. Would love to hear from you. Let's have a fun discussion about this. My name is James Lynch. I do the stock report every week after every UFC event. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you hit the like button on this video, subscribe, and also know that I'm putting content on this channel every single day. So that's why you got to subscribe to the channel. All right, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you guys on Monday.